Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching NDTV. The Rajya Sabha on Tuesday witnessed a new spate of fireworks between the Treasury benches and the opposition benches, and this was over Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge's objectionable and unconstitutional comments as claimed by the BJP. Now, it was day 2 of the second part of the budget session. If Monday was all about the outrage to Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan's remarks that the DMK claimed were insulting and derogatory, today Mr Kharge mentioned thokenge, which means thrashing, in his remarks, apparently intended as a counter to Mr Pradhan's claims on the centre's intent with the NEP and the opposition's alleged politicizing of the same matter. But what we saw today when Mr Kharge spoke, the House erupted in protest with members from both sides engaging in a verbal spat. The BJP in fact took strong objection to Mr Kharge's choice of words. Leader of the House of the BJP, JP Nadda, who's also the Health Minister, demanded that Mr Kharge either apologized or that his comments be expunged from the proceedings of the House. Mr Kharge made these remarks while Congress MP Digvijay Singh was about to reply to the discussion on the work of the Education Ministry. He also questioned the absence of the Education Minister from the House. Now, of course, Mr Kharge has apologized immediately, and he has also withdrawn his remark, which in Hindi would loosely translate as nailing somebody. But the flare-up today followed from Monday's chaos that was a fierce spat between the centre and Tamil Nadu over delimitation and the imposition of Hindi, or the alleged imposition of Hindi language through the 3-language formula of the new education policy. Well, in a roundup of the Parliament today, the Immigration and Foreigners Bill 2025 introduced in the Lok Sabha today is also a bill that seeks to streamline various services related to immigration and foreigners, including their entry, exit, and also stay in the country. Meanwhile, in response to Speaker Om Birla's assertions about Prime Minister Narendra Modi consistently apprising the House of his measures outside, Congress MP Gaurav Gogoi, while speaking on Manipur, held that he has utmost respect for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, however, accusing the Treasury benches of making unwelcome remarks against former Prime Ministers. Now, quick to respond to this assertion was Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who held that the opposition must have the grace to admit that they have abused the present Prime Minister and will not repeat it again. She also spoke responding to the demand. She will also speak very soon responding to the demand for grants today in the floor of the House. Now, coming back to Mr Kharge's comments, well, both Mr Kharge and Dharmendra Pradhan have withdrawn the words that they used, the objectionable comments that they used. The larger question, however, remains, why are these matters of language delimitation becoming such polarizing issues even on the floor of the House, often leaving no room for debate, and we are left with offensive remarks and then apologies. So we discussed that today. Joining us now is a panel of guests. But first, let's take a look at what really happened in the House today.
एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर आए नहीं थे।
प्लीज
सुनिए
बोलने दीजिए, विषय पे हम लोग
जी क्या डिक्टेटरशिप हो गया? मैं आपसे हाथ जोड़ के विनती कर रहा हूँ,
को अनुरोध कर रहा हूँ, माननीय दिग्विजय जी को बोलना है।
नहीं, मेरा बोलना है, हम बोलने के लिए तैयार भी किए हैं और आपको क्या क्या ठोकना है ठीक से ठोकेंगे, लेकिन सर
आप बहस आपस में करेंगे। आपसे उम्मीद करता हूं कि आप बातचीत में आप बड़े अनुभवी हैं, आपसे लोग सीखें।
बहुत ही दुख की बात है कि आपने अभी लीडर ऑफ द ऑपोजिशन, जो इतने तजुर्बेकार लंबे समय तक, जिन्होंने संसदीय कार्य के रूप में प्रदेश में भी और पार्लियामेंट में भी, लोकसभा में भी और राज्यसभा में जिन्होंने नेतृत्व भी किया और सदस्य के रूप में भी काम किया, अभी जो उन्होंने भाषा का उपयोग किया और चेयर पर स्पर्शन किया है, यह अति निंदनीय है, अति निंदनीय है। दिस इज कंडेमनेबल, दिस इज टू बी कंडेम्ड बाय वन एंड ऑल, इंक्लूडिंग द LOP. ही शुड कंडेम एंड ही शुड अपोलोजाइज। जो शब्द का उपयोग किया है चेयर के प्रति, जो the word and the language used against the chair, it is unpardonable. वो अस्वीकार्य है और वो माफी योग्य नहीं है। फिर भी LOP को माफी मांगनी चाहिए और बताना चाहिए, अपने शब्दों को वापस लेना चाहिए, नहीं तो उसको एक्सपंज करना चाहिए।
मैं कभी आपके आपके लिए नहीं बोला, मैं सरकार के पॉलिसी को हम ठोकेंगे ये कहा। माफ करना अगर आपको मेरे बात से अगर ठोस लगी है।
We have Sumant Raman, who is a commentator and also political analyst. We have Sarvanan Annadurai, DMK spokesperson. We have Brijesh Kallappa, who's a Congress spokesperson. Thank you all of you for joining me on this broadcast. To you, Shazia, first. Considering whatever happened today, the protest that the DMK sort of initiated in the morning, but otherwise the parliament did function properly. Do you see this as crisis averted, or do you see that the BJP has been able to put across its point despite the opposition in fact raising this, and DMK in fact raising this very strongly by not just one protest but by multiple protests?
I really think that the language used by Mr. Kharge is not just unparliamentary, it is unacceptable. Somebody of his stature, who has worked at so many different levels, who is one of the most senior veteran leaders of Congress party. Look at the language he's using in the parliament. It's a complete shocker. So I don't know whether it's a crisis averted or not, but it goes on to show the kind of mentality and mindset even senior leaders of Congress have. The sense of animosity and the complete vicious tone and the low standard of language that is being used is completely not on. I mean, who talks like that? I can understand, it's like some at the college level, a brawl breaks and some college gundas talk like that. But I mean, to speak like that in the parliament, when there is a protest and Mr. Nadda says, and there's a protest and uproar, then he says, oh, I'm sorry about what I said, but we are against the government policy. But who uses this language? So I'm quite shocked that the debate, we can go into the merits and demerits of it, and they should be discussed. But the way a senior leader, and that also Mr. Kharge, is speaking, it's beyond me. It's just beyond me. I cannot imagine, and people are watching this. And it's insane that we have to accept it, and that somebody has to point it out in the parliament, and that not just that, the treasury benches will have to point it out, and then they will come up and say, oh, I'm sorry for the words I use. But they are absolutely, I mean, shocking use of words, the tone, and I don't think it's great decorum when it comes to parliament. This kind of vicious behavior.
Mr. Kallappa, you heard Shazia out. The heat was just not off the BJP yet with what happened with Mr. Pradhan's comments. He also, of course, apologized and withdrew his comments. But now, do you think Mr. Kharge saying thokenge has given fresh ammunition to the BJP to also say that this kind of language should be completely avoided?
See, what we call a counterblast in law is being done by the BJP. See, Mr. Kharge started to speak, and then Mr. Nadda spoke before Mr. Kharge. So Mr. Kharge said to Mr. Nadda that, look, Mr. Nadda, if you continue to interrupt me like this, we will also pull you up, right? Aapko bhi thokenge. Yani ki we will also raise issues regarding you. And then the deputy chairman reprimands Mr. Kharge and says, look, if you're going to have an exchange between the two of yourself, why am I sitting here? That's what the deputy chairman says. So obviously the words were not directed at the deputy chairman or the house, but at Mr. Nadda, which is perfectly all right, because it is the job of the opposition leader to pull up what the government does or the treasury bench does. And now what Mr. Nadda did is being too clever by half, and by claiming that Mr. Kharge had actually spoken against the house, right, or the chair. And this is even on the face of the record. Even if a third person is watching the entire proceedings, it's clear that Mr. Kharge was not reprimanding the chairman, but actually the leader of the house, that is Mr. Nadda. But right, Mr. Nadda played a very smart move, and then he extracted an apology from Mr. Kharge, and he also ensured that as far as Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, who had committed one of the worst mistakes in parliamentary history, that was also forgotten. But more important than that is the words of Mr. Amit Shah, when he recently said to the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu that you introduce Tamil in engineering and in medicine, as if challenging that Tamil is such a poor language that it can't be used in terms of how medicine or engineering should be practiced. So I think this kind of low-level remarks have only come from BJP, and by being too clever.
No, Mr. Kharge, I looked at that very differently because, Mr. Amit Shah has been a proponent of regional languages and professional education, although I completely think that that's not something that we should be doing. In fact, I remember covering Anna University, and I remember Dravidian parties initiating Tamil education in engineering colleges as well. So clearly you look at it differently. A lot of us also look at it differently. Let me get in Saravanan Annadurai here. Saravanan, this is also a problem of language. Many of us are not native speakers of Hindi or native speakers of English. Do you think that with Mr. Pradhan apologizing for what he spoke in English, uncivilized, was completely unwarranted? And of course, Mr. Kharge saying thokenge. I mean, why push both these things further? Should we just sort of put these matters to rest?
See, Mr. Brajesh Kalapa has clearly explained. And coming from the BJP and giving us lectures on decorum and what to speak, isn't it too rich? Where is Mr. Ramesh Biduri? And how much of respect he's gained over the BJP in the last few years after his famous speech. And BJP has the temerity to lecture everybody on what is good and what is not right. See, when it comes to the exchange or what Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan spoke, it was on a different context. It is about the right of the state. He is the same person who very arrogantly said, I will not give you 2,100 crores. And he also blackmailed us, saying you will lose 5,000 crores. It isn't acceptable. So his statements has to be taken into that context. And he also lied on the floor of the parliament by saying that we agreed that the state of Tamil Nadu agreed to implement PMHD schools, and the delegation of the MPs from DMK met him and assured him. It was rebutted inside the parliament itself. And Madam Kanimoli has clearly brought in a privilege motion against him. So both cannot be equated. See, it is a well-known tactic of the BJP to take something out of context and blow it out of proportion and say tit for tat. This is, okay, he has said that, you have said this, finish it, forget it and walk off. No, it's not so. That is not going to happen in this case. Okay. See, there is a bigger problem.
Okay. Yeah. Before I go to Shazia, let me get one quick comment from Sumant Raman. Mr. Raman, do you think that the DMK has thought through this?
Mr. Kharge, and you have one person, I think it's a very unfair, division of time that you have allocated.
Shazia, I'm just coming back to you. Let me just get one quick comment from Dr. Raman, and I will give you, I promise I'll give you adequate time. Just one quick comment from Dr. Raman. Mr. Raman, do you think the DMK has thought through this completely? Because the BJP is also alleging that the DMK is reacting like this, in fact, depending on political rhetoric, emotive issues, because it fears electoral loss in 2026.
No, I don't think so. I think that this is a well thought out strategy, and they are using that strategy because this is a card that they have used in the past very often, the language card, and it sort of plays into that into their hands. Having said that, I think all these issues are diversions, which are, for instance, Mr. Pradhan made an allegation saying that you have agreed to sign the MOU. That should have been the issue on which the MPs must have been agitating, rather than on what language he used or what words he used. So each of this is a diversion to take away from, the key issues of the day. And what happened, what Mr. Kharge said, he apologized. He's been such a senior parliamentarian for decades. And one word is picked out there, then you say, this should be expunged, that should be, he has insulted this and that. Let me ask you a question. Let's assume that Mr. Pradhan, if he said that the DMK MPs were uncivilized yesterday, he has insulted the people of Tamil Nadu. Every time the Prime Minister came to Tamil Nadu, the DMK said, go back Modi, get out Modi. Now, Mr. Modi is the democratically elected Prime Minister of the country. So can we say that they have insulted 1.4 billion Indians? Each of these is a diversion. Each of these takes away from discussing on vital issues of national importance, on issues which affect the citizens. And they are both, all of them are equally guilty. And I think the citizens should be fed up of what is going on in Parliament, with offense being taken for individual words and not the issues that are behind them. Nobody seems to, I did not see any of the MPs coming and protesting in the well of the House, asking Mr. Pradhan to produce the evidence for his statement, where he said, they agreed to sign and they have done a U-turn. Now let him justify that statement. Nothing about that.
Okay,
Instead of that, they pick
Shahzad,
on
you
one
wanted
word
to
and
come
they
in
go
because
about it.
Sumant Raman is making an important point that everyone is just discussing what words people used and what really offended each other, not really the core of policy issues, which is what the parliament is for.
Well, obviously, I mean, there are three BJP haters, baiters, and proponents of Congress and DMK. So they will say what they have to say, and I think there should be equal allocation in terms of time that is being given and the point of view, which is very unbalanced on your show. And I've already protested. But I would like to say, Vasudha, it is really sad. It is just not a matter of a word. And even if it was somebody from my party to use the word thokenge, I mean, coming from Kharge ji, it's just not on. And Brajesh ji just said it. Apology was extracted. He did not apologize. There was an uproar. I mean, I'm quite shocked. And is he likening people, some other people who have used very bad language to Mr. Kharge? This is how it's going to be? I mean, it's very sad. As for the real issues, I mean, the fact of the matter is, and you know it, Vasudha, you carry it, NEP, was implemented in 2020. 5 years down the line, after having signed the MOU, suddenly the language issue comes up. I mean, it is a bit suspicious and curious, right? That you've had no issues with it whatsoever. There is nowhere in NEP that any language is reduced. In fact, the regional languages are actually given a lot of importance, whether it's the services or the commission or medical or engineering exams, and are given equal credit, and so to speak. And that has been accepted too by every state.
Right.
Even all the states and the biggest detractors have accepted it, and nobody could point out. There is a left which is always ready to speak against.
So probably the center and the states need to get together to at least put forward one consensus on what the NEP actually intends to do.